Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hey everybody, this is Holly from Holly's Pandorium. I'm back here today with a new person that I have not spoken with before, so I'm very excited to hear his stories and we can all share some of the stuff he's discovered today. This is Tristan, and Tristan happens to be, in Washington, which is awesome because he's one of the few people I've spoken to that's in Washington like I am, so that's pretty awesome. So hi Tristan, how are you today?
Hi Holly, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I cannot wait to hear one of your stories about the paranormal in your life and how it affected you. Can you pick a story to share with us for now?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to say it's paranormal for sure, but it was definitely weird.
Okay,
So it's one of the weirdest things that's happened to me. So I'll share it. And
great.
people can interpret it whatever they want.
Perfect.
So a few years ago, I'll go back into this as the show goes on, like more backstory of
Okay.
where this is. But I was on a Bigfoot outing near Mount Rainier at a place called Bumping Lake, and we were camped at one of these primitive campsites there. And I like to put out audio recorders around, and I actually usually do that when it gets darker out, because the recorders will go on for like 8 hours or so, and so I want to conserve as much running time as I can. So that's why I go out at night.
Right.
So at one of the campsites there's a trail that goes to the right, and there's actually the trail kind of goes upward. Like as you progress on the trail, it goes up a hill a little bit as you get further back. So it goes up like a little hill eventually, and it's all woods. Obviously, it's all woods around us. But I wanted to put a recorder up on this hill that was kind of above camp and see if anything would be crossing the pathway around that hill area. Because there's actually like a trail that goes like back and forth along this hill.
Okay.
So around 9 o'clock at night, and it was getting, when you're out there like 9 o'clock at night, it gets pitch dark. Like it gets really dark out there. So there was like a little bit of light left, and so I started walking alone all the way back up this trail up towards this hill, and I'd say about 30 feet before I get to like where the hill starts climbing up, I had this weird sensation in me that told me I shouldn't go any further. And I don't know, it was like some weird like primal fear instinct that like hit me. Like it was like I've asked people this, like, have you ever heard or have you ever had this feeling of running into like a brick wall, like a wall just like right in front of you? Because I've never really actually felt that before. After all these times of being out there researching and camping, it was like it's like I ran into a wall that said you can't go any further.
Wow.
Like there's possible danger up ahead. And so I just had this weird shaking feeling like I should not go any further than this.
Right.
And so I spun around and I turned right back around and I just walked right back to camp. But I personally have never felt that kind of fear before. Like I wasn't wanted there, or I shouldn't go up there because I don't know. So I mean, that's just something that stood out to me after all these years of researching, and I've never felt that sense, because I've gone out like putting out recorders like really early in the morning at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I've actually gotten growled at after putting out a recorder, or not putting out a recorder, after grabbing a recorder at around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I actually got growled at when I picked it up. And so, but I didn't get that feeling where I needed to stop, that just never occurred to me. So I don't know what it was. I don't know why I suddenly felt that way, like I had to stop and turn around. That's just, I don't know if there's some kind of force that told me that, or is this some weird primal instinct. But that's just one experience. Like that's just one experience I've had where I can't explain it. Like why, after all these other times, why would I be been felt like I had to turn around and not put out that recorder like I've done many, many times before.
Right. But
I don't know if you could
so
chop it up to paranormal or not, but I don't know what it is. Like, why did I get that sudden fear in myself?
right. So you didn't actually run into anything physical. It was just a sense that you had. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, it was a sense, but
Okay.
it was anything that spoke to me, or I don't know if something was sent to me to have that kind of sense, but it was a
Okay.
sense. It was a sense of dread. And
Okay.
I've never felt that before. So, I mean, I guess you got to go with your instincts, though, right? Like if you get that feeling within you, you gotta go with it and not go against it. And
Well, and
it was a really scary feeling. Like I was
I
like, wow,
bet.
I couldn't go this way.
Well, and I can say several ghost teams and paranormal researchers have had that experience in different forms, sometimes in a building, sometimes on a trail, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the middle of the night in the dark. But that sense, and that's a perfect word, a sense of dread. Dread
Mm,
is a very commonly understood sensation. That's the fight or flight, like get out of here. It's something's bad. It's not questioning maybe bad, it's bad. It just
mm,
doesn't feel right. It feels very unsettling and it kind of gets in your gut. It's to me when I've had a sensation like that, there's no doubt in my mind I don't know what it is, but I know that it's something I don't want to be a part of because it feels so bad. It just doesn't feel healthy. It feels scary a bit, but also just this not knowing. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I feel like this. It kind of overwhelms your senses for a moment to the point that you have to respond. You can't ignore it because
yeah.
it's intense. It's not a little feeling. It's a big one and it really gets to you. So how old were you when that happened?
Let's see, I'm 42 now. I'd say I was around 39 to 40. It was a few years ago. It wasn't
Mm,
too far back.
okay.
Yeah, it
So how
was a
long have
few years ago.
how long have you been doing your research?
I've been doing this since around 2015, so a little bit around 10 years now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there a series of events that led you up to do this research? What made you want to start to do that? What brought you to it?
Uh, well, I mean, real quickly with my background, like I've always had a fascination with monsters and dinosaurs
Okay.
and Bigfoot and cryptids,
Mhm.
Loch Ness Monster growing up. I've had a fascination with that stuff.
Mhm.
Like I used to go to libraries, checking out books, watching
Mhm.
documentaries such as In Search of Bigfoot with Robert Morgan,
Mhm.
and things like that. Even Harry and the Hendersons was pretty big back in the 80s
Right.
and 90s.
Yes.
So, growing up with that, I always had a great fascination with all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But like I've told in other podcasts, like I've never had a fascination of looking for them. I always thought there's enough people out there searching for the thing, so why should I be another person that goes out there?
Mhm.
But that all changed for me in 2015 when my father was taking out the trash one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. This was in
Mhm.
February 2015,
Okay.
and so behind our house we have like there's a hill up here, a forested hill that's now owned by Global Campbell. They
Mhm.
used to be owned by Weyerhaeuser, but then they gave it to Global Campbell.
Mhm.
So he was taking the trash out front, and he heard two distinct whoops. Like one whoop would call from one side of the hill, and then
Mhm.
another whoop would answer that. And
Hmm.
he thought that was very odd because he's never heard that before. He's heard that like in recordings, but it really surprised for him to hear that in person.
Right.
So he made a note of that, and then as he was driving down the road here going to work, there was a herd of elk, like literally a herd of elk standing all in the road, and they're
Oh,
all
wow.
looking up. And this is according to my dad. They're all looking up towards that hill where those whoops were
Okay.
coming from. And my dad said he actually had to swerve around the herd of elk, like you had to go, like go through the herd of elk and drive around them. And then he went to work, and then for whatever reason he didn't tell my mother and I about this until like a few weeks later when we were watching, possibly I think it was like Finding Bigfoot or something. We were watching some kind of Bigfoot show, and that re-triggered that in his head, and that's when he
Oh.
told us about it. Like, I heard these whoops on the hill like a few weeks back, and we're like, she and I were like, what? you didn't tell us this?
Right.
But so as soon as we heard that, I like literally the next day, she and I went up that hill with a jar of peanut butter. She had a new jar of peanut butter that she took
Okay.
up there, and we took up some peanut butter crackers, like in those little plastic, little plastic
Right.
cracker things. And I had an old, and I still have it. I have an old Sony digital recorder, which doesn't
Okay.
have a USB or anything like that. Like once you record onto it, it's pretty much on there until you can record off of it onto
Right.
another audio recorder.
Sure.
So back then that was kind of a pain in the butt because I actually had to sit here and listen to the recorder like this.
Okay.
Yeah. But that might
Pretty old school, Tristan. I gotta say, that's cool.
it is pretty old school, but there might be an interesting fact about this recorder that I'll mention as this event goes on. So
Okay.
so she and I go up this hill, and there's like it used to be more forested up here, but then this developer from California, a few years after this event happened, he came in and demolished like a lot of the forest here. Yeah, and he wanted to do some kind of development, but for whatever reason they stopped the development. And so now it's just like a dug-in logging road, and then like trees are now growing back. But they pulled out a bunch of trees and everything, even destroyed the spot where well, anyway, so we went up this at the time. We went up this logging road, and there's a spot up there with a creek. Well, there was a creek. Well, the creek is still there, but they really tore it up after this, after they came in doing their thing. But anyway, there's a spot at this creek where like there's another logging road that comes down from the hill up above, and kind of crosses into this creek and even into this forested area. Well, it's not forested as much anymore, but there was a lot of forest at the time. There was a lot of forest, so it got pretty like as the logging road got past the creek, it was pretty dense. I mean, you could still kind of walk it, but it was really dense with brush and trees and stuff. So it was pretty remote looking, basically. So anyway, so she and I went to this creek, and for whatever reason, we had this idea like maybe whatever was making these whoops was traveling down this upper road and coming through the creek, because we were thinking maybe this creek was going along the rest of the ridge of the hill. Maybe that might have been a travel route for whatever was making the whoop sounds. So there's so at the time there was a log, there's a log right next to the creek, and my mom put the new peanut butter jar on this log, and she told me that she didn't twist off. She loosened the top. She didn't twist it off, but she loosened the top of the peanut butter jar. And she put down the peanut butter crackers right next to the peanut butter jar. And then like a few feet away from where the water is, there was a stump. There was a stump right next to the creek a little bit, like few feet away from where the log was. So I strapped a bungee cord to the Sony digital recorder, and I put that on the stump. So it was strapped to a stump with a bungee cord. And so I had it recording overnight. We left that stuff there overnight. And what I want to mention too is like, daylight savings time still didn't really occur yet. It would get dark pretty early. Sure. So it was around like 5 o'clock or so when we did this. And so like an hour after we left, it got pretty dark out there. So we returned the next morning, and then when we got up there, the peanut butter jar lid was opened, and I got pictures of it too. But when you look at the peanut butter jar, it looked like there's possible dermal ridges on the inside of the peanut butter jar. Okay. And it looked like possible finger holes down inside the peanut butter jar, like maybe something put its hand. I'd say put its hand inside the peanut butter jar and scooped up a bunch of peanut butter and was possibly eating it. Okay. And then the peanut butter crackers were all neatly opened. They weren't ripped open like maybe a bear would do. Like they were just neatly open like this. Oh wow. And but they were all gone. And so we thought that was really weird, of course, but we didn't know what did this. Right. So I went over to the recorder, and the recorder looked fine. There was no scratch marks, teeth marks, or anything. It looked fine, like the way I left it. So I didn't think anything of it. Right. until I went home, and like I said, I had to physically listen to the audio recorder.
Right.
Well, an hour after she and I left the night before, something came in, and the first thing you hear is a really loud, they call it the hum. It kind of sounds like the fluttering of a moth or maybe hummingbird wings, but that's not really what it is. But I'm just saying that's like the closest sound to it.
Sure.
It's like a really loud feedback, kind of a whoop sound.
Okay.
And then in the background, you can possibly hear a wood knock and a whoop. That's what I think I hear. And then you start hearing whatever this thing is. You start hearing this thing, I think, opening up the peanut butter crackers and messing with the peanut butter jar and eating.
I love it.
Yeah, and you hear it doing that, and then a few seconds later, you hear this really loud, "Ugh!" Like I think it sees my audio recorder at that point, and when it does, it makes a really loud, growl, like grunt kind of sound. And then I'd say a second or two later, you hear this thing coming over, like you hear this thing right up to the audio recorder, making that humming sound. And then you can hear it. It starts fumbling and messing with my recorder while growling and making that humming sound. It was like, rah, 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 rah. So it was like, it would do that for like about 5 seconds or so. And then it just leaves it alone. Then it's gone. You don't even hear it walk away or anything. It just, after it's done messing with the recorder, it just leaves, just disappears.
I have to ask, what in the world prompted you to bring peanut butter? Where did that fix into this? How did that conversation happen? What should we bring to tempt what's out here? Not toast, not crackers, peanut butter. Yes, let's bring peanut butter. Whose idea was that? Was that yours or your mom's?
That was my mom's. We were watching some videos of other people who have gifted.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've heard of Barb Shoop, but she's
sure. Yeah.
So she was doing that in her videos, and so that's where we got the idea of possibly gifting.
Gotcha. Okay.
To be honest, we wanted to get the Sierra sounds, like we wanted to get that chatter and that kind of stuff, because that really excited us. Like, oh, maybe we got an opportunity here to get some samurai chatter or some kind of chatter.
Wow.
So that's what we were hoping for. And then my mom was doing a little bit of research about like, what can we give them? So, Barb was feeding them peanut butter. So we got the same idea, and that's what we tried.
That's awesome. I love that. That. So was that the first time that you guys had an experience near your home? Is that the first time that you did anything research-wise with Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
Yeah. That was the catalyst, basically. Like, it's funny. Like, we've lived here all of our life, and we never even thought we might have possible Sasquatch, if that's what this is. I still don't know what this is.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's amazing to think, like, wow, they're that close to us. We're in a neighborhood down here, and there's like this hill right up here where the woods are. So yeah, it's crazy how close that is to civilization. But
that's the part that I find fascinating. So I actually live by a couple of lakes, small foothills, and some mountains are not very close to me, but they're near enough. They're within 50 miles. And I have some pretty good indications, I'll say. I'm not going to say it's evidence, but I have some good indications that there's been some right outside our house.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not in a big neighborhood. There's only 30 homes right where we live. It's not very large. We're not far from town, but it kind of is shocking to me because my first experience with Sasquatch was in a campground surrounded by the woods. There was very little civilization by contrast. And so I'm always very curious, what's the surroundings like, and a lot of people I know, it's very heavily wooded typically is where things show up. So that's what I picture. That's what I kind of assume in my mind, that that's where they show up, or that's where the evidence is, or that's where you go looking. So I get it. When something's close to home like that, it's very curious. It's like, that seems very brave and very odd. Why would they? But in my first experience, the Sasquatch I saw was going through trash.
Yeah, I've heard about that too before.
Yeah, it was a little dumpster, not a trash can, but an actual small dumpster. And so that's incredible. So let's go forward. So then what did you do? You started this little research thing with your family, basically. Then what did you do? What was the next part of your journey on this research stuff that you're doing?
Well, since my mother and I were kind of watching Barb's videos, we contacted her and we wanted to get on, one of her campouts because we were really curious. Like, well, before I back up, let me back up real quick. Like, after that event happened, we tried putting up a recorder up there again,
right?
Even a game cam, and we didn't get anything. So I think whatever that thing was, it didn't like what we put up there, and I think it might have changed its route. So that's something to note there. That's kind of another reason why we kind of wanted to branch out, because we weren't getting any results up here after that night.
Okay.
So we were thinking, where else could we go where maybe possible Sasquatch activity could be? Even though we didn't know what this thing was, we were thinking, well, maybe it was a Sasquatch, but we weren't sure. I still can't say for sure that's a Sasquatch, but so yeah, we contacted Barb Shoop and we joined one of her campouts and we started camping out with her, and she took us to some of her spots over there by near Mount Rainier, and one of the areas that we went to was Bumping Lake. I don't know if you've heard of that area or been there before, but it's it was our first time there, and she took us there in October 2015, and it's like 3,000 feet up. It's really high elevation. You have to go up Chinook Pass or go through Yakima to get over there.
Okay.
It's like a 3-hour drive both ways. Like either way you go, it's like 3 hours for me.
Gotcha.
So when we got there and when we were camping there, they were finding possible footprints along the shoreline. Now, at the time, we didn't know anything about Bumping Lake. We didn't know what, like how many people go through there or what. But as we camped on more, we noticed that there are a lot of people that do go to the lake. So, and they leave their own footprints too. So it's kind of difficult to discern possible Sasquatch and possible human prints along these lakes. So, but they did find a trackway there of a couple of individuals, and to this day we still can't say for sure if it was Bigfoot or not. But I mean, this was in October, and I don't know who's walking out there in October, but because it gets really cold up there.
Oh, I'm sure. 3,000 feet, I bet.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be honest with you. Like when we first camped there in October, those coldest nights I've ever camped ever.
I was gonna say
we were freezing. You're freezing. Like, yeah, it was terrible. So, but when we started seeing these prints, and we got really curious about this area, and then there's some primitive camp spots out there that we go to, and that they took us to, and now that we keep going back to. And they're pretty remote primitive camping spots. And they've had, over the years as we gone there, we've had possible activity go on. Like I've been capturing a whole bunch of sounds up in these primitive camping spots, and people have seen things like, seen possible figures running around camp. I personally haven't really seen anything there, but I've been capturing some weird chattering sounds and vocalizations like howling and that chorus audio I'm sure you've listened to. So we've been going back there like every year, like every spring and summer, and whenever they open up the pass, we get up there as soon as we can, because I'm pretty sure the passes up there get a heavy amount of snow.
Yes, they do.
You gotta wait for that stuff to melt, or for for transit to clear that out, because it takes so long. But yeah, we were going up. So Bumping Lake is our main area up in there. And then we've also gone around. There's some other places near me. Like there's a lake near me that's closer to me that my mom and I have gone to, and we found, I say, possible juvie prints. I can't say for sure, but I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures I sent you. That I mean, some of them to me don't look human, and that's why I took pictures of them.
Sure.
And they were found in, and again, some of these were found in October and November, like during the cold winter months.
Right.
So who again is walking out there barefoot? I have no idea.
Right. Not likely. Yeah.
Not possibly likely. No. And I was finding some of these prints like pretty close to the wood line, like away from, the populated spots on the lake. It's pretty more on the
Mhm.
outskirts of the lake. Because
Right.
my mindset is thinking, well, if there's Sasquatch around, they're probably going to be right where the wood line is, right?
Right.
Not where everybody populates in the popular spots.
Right.
So yeah, we've been camping around Washington State,
Mhm.
ever since the initial thing up here, and
Mhm.
um, I've seen a couple of things. I guess I can talk about that real quick. I can't say again these are Bigfoot, but
I gotcha. Yeah.
I I'll just
Disclaimer.
say I'll just tell you a few possible sightings of something.
Mhm.
So back here where Global Campbell owns this area, back up here in the forest area. I mean, it
Okay.
stretches for miles. This forested area up here stretches for
Mhm.
miles. And 2 hours away from me, there's a walking trail. There's a nature trail that you can take. And my mother and I, my dad and my golden retriever at the time went out there one year. I believe it was like in spring in the springtime because it was pretty warm out. And our car was the only one at this little parking lot that they have there. We were the only ones there.
Mhm.
So we were walking along this trail, and then the trail as you walk up the trail, there's a old concrete railroad bridge that you have to cross. That has like a little stream down below it, and there's actually a little sandy bank on the below this bridge.
Mhm.
So when I first saw the sandy bank, I was like, oh, maybe there's possible footprints down there because we were pretty far out in the woods. I was thinking, well, maybe
Mhm.
might have a chance of seeing a footprint. So I asked my parents if is it cool if I walk down to this bank and look for
Mhm.
footprints, and you guys can go ahead with the dog up the trail. And they said sure. So that's what I did. I went down below this bridge looking for prints, and unfortunately, I didn't find anything. But I happened to look back up to the bridge, and again, I don't know what this is, but I saw this thing running in all four. All I saw was the head and back and shoulders of something cresting this bridge. Like I saw the top parts of it
Okay.
running on all fours from the direction my parents just went up to.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
coming back from their direction,
Oh, wow.
going back to the way we came in. And this was like a few seconds, but I saw this long-haired. To be honest with you, I thought it was my dog because I had that
Okay.
same golden blondish hair that my dog does.
Okay.
But the hair on it was long. It was really long and waving, and like I said, it looked like it was running on all fours, and it just ran across the bridge with no sound. Like you can even hear. Well, because the stream was there, so maybe that's why I didn't hear it.
Sure.
But he just ran quickly across this bridge, and I don't know what the heck it was. Uh, I mean, it wasn't a deer or elk because, like I said, the fur or hair or whatever it
Yeah,
was, it
the hair
was
wouldn't
long.
match up.
It
Right.
was long. It was like, again, the closest thing that I was thinking was my golden retriever, but
Right.
that's not what it was because as soon as I saw it run by, I ran up to the bridge and tried to catch up to it, but it was
Mm.
long gone.
Okay.
And so I
So
went back to the bridge.
it
What?
was
I'm
going
sorry.
fast.
Oh
It
no,
was
it was
going really
yeah,
fast.
very
Okay.
fast. I couldn't catch a beat on it. I mean, it was gone, like way gone.
Huh.
So I went back. I went back to the spot where I was on the bridge, and I waited for my parents to come back. And when they came back, I asked them. Our dog name was Puppy. I said, "Did Puppy get away from you guys and come this way?" They
Mhm.
said, "No, Puppy was with us the whole time." And of course, they came back with the dog with them. So
Wow.
that really perplexed me, and that stumped me. And to this day, I have no idea what that was. But I mean, like I said, there was nobody else there. There's no other people there. So unless did somebody lose another golden retriever out there or something? I have no idea. But
And so what time of day was this, do you think?
I'd say in the like maybe 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like in the middle of the
Okay.
day. It
Okay.
wasn't early. We didn't go up there early in the morning. It was kind of like more in the afternoon area.
Okay. So it was very light
And
out. So you had
oh
a
yeah,
fairly
like
clear view then. Okay.
clear view. Yes, definitely clear view.
Okay.
But again, like all I saw was the top half of it, like the head, the top head.
Right.
It's kind of like this, but then like you saw the back of it.
Sure.
Just like a big thing of hair or fur or whatever you want to call it. That's all flowing in the wind. That's all I saw. It was the
Oh,
weirdest
wow.
thing.
Hmm.
So to this day, I have no idea what that was, but
Wow.
it wasn't any animal that I can put a name to.
Interesting.
You know, it had to be fairly large too for it to even like crest the top half of the concrete barrier. It wasn't like a small animal. It was pretty decent size. So I don't know. I have no idea what that was, but that'll always stick with me. And was it a Sasquatch? Was it a juvenile Sasquatch? Who knows? But maybe.
Right.
I have no idea.
Right. So then what happened after that?
You mean like my next encounter?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah. So my next encounter, if you want to call it that, because I still don't know what it was. But,
Right. No, that's fair.
So like I mentioned earlier, there's a lake near us where I was finding some of those possible juvie prints.
Okay.
That you see. So next to this lake, there's this hill that you can go up on. It's like a hiking hill, and it goes up pretty far too, into this wooded area. So I took my dog up there, my golden retriever again, and this was like kind of late in the afternoon. I'd say around 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. In the springtime. If I remember correctly, it was in April of 2015, and we were going up this trail, and then there's a part of the trail where it splits. Let me back up real quick. When my dog and I were going up this trail, there was actually and I don't know if this is Bigfoot or not, but there was an arch, like a limb arch over the trail.
Okay.
And I know that's the thing, you know, people think that's maybe Bigfoot related, but I mean, I saw it over the trail. It went right over the trail and was anchored down on the other side of the trail by another piece of wood. It was anchored there.
Okay.
So this art, I don't know what it is. I've never seen it there before. I mean, I've been up that trail before, and that's the first time I've seen this arch over this trail. So I made a note of that, and then so my dog and I kept going up this trail, and like I said, eventually the trail splits. It goes upwards even more, or it goes downwards. So I happened to look on the side of the trail where it splits, and I saw what I thought was a possible footprint in the gravel that was coming down, like that was pointed down from the upper part of the hill. It was like on the side of the trail in some gravel, and it looked like a possible print, in my opinion. So I thought, that's weird. So I decided to go up the hill. And as I was walking up the hill with my dog, about 50 yards away, up on this ridge, pretty far back into the wood line, but there was like a ridge back in there, I started hearing movement. And my dog, the strange thing was my dog lay down behind me. And he's a dog that usually would chase anything like deer, elk. He'll chase
Sure. Right.
He'd start barking. He didn't do any of that. He didn't want any part of whatever this thing was. So I heard movement up on this ridge, like maybe something walking, like crunching branches and stuff. And unfortunately, like it was kind of hard to see, but like it had a line of trees on this ridge, but you could see like the silhouette of a tall, dark looking figure, in my opinion, walking through these trees. It was like a silhouette, like a dark silhouette. And to be honest with you, it kind of looked like it might have been trying to get a good look at my dog and I. Like it might have been trying to look in between the trees at us.
Wow.
That's what I got. Like that's the feeling that I got. And so we just froze there. Like I just stood there frozen, and my dog, like I said, my dog didn't make a sound. He laid down behind me. And whatever this thing was, it eventually decided to go back further away, like into the wood line. But you can hear, like as I was walking, you can hear it making really loud thumping, crashing sounds. Like whatever this thing was very heavy. So that freaked me out. And so when it went away, my dog and I went back down the hill to where we came from. And we ran into a guy that was coming up the hill with a German Shepherd.
Okay.
And I said, dude, there's something big up here. I don't know if it's a bear. I have no idea, man. But like, there's some big dark thing up here that it scared me and my dog. And the surprising thing is, his response was like, he goes, that doesn't surprise me. He goes, I live there's a neighborhood down below this hill.
Okay.
That this guy lives in. And he says a few weeks earlier, apparently a neighbor told him that they saw a Bigfoot running through the guy's yard,
Oh,
like
wow.
through his backyard a few weeks earlier. So he was not surprised when I told him what I saw up there. So I was like, wow, okay.
So what did you think, Tristan, when he said that? I mean, did that kind of resonate with you? Like, okay.
Yeah. Because, like when I was first looking at this thing, I was like, well, okay, is this a possible elk, a deer, a bear? I mean, I still wasn't sure what I was looking at.
Right.
But
right.
when I saw that possible footprint and the arch, I was trying to maybe put two and two together with that,
Right.
but I'm still not sure. But when he told me that, it's like, whoa, where did that come from? So
right.
So maybe there's a correlation there. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I still don't know what this thing was.
Right.
Really
but it's interesting though to hear a different, a total stranger gives you a report from a couple weeks earlier in a similar area. And they clearly didn't have a problem saying they thought it was a Bigfoot because of whatever they observed. So that's impactful. I think that would really kind of go, oh, maybe that's what I saw. Because again, you're one of many experiencers that has the same response that I had, which is, what did I just see? You question yourself immensely. There's a lot of self-doubt. I'm not sure what I saw, but I know I saw something, but I'm not sure that I know what I saw, because it's hard to quantify. It's hard to figure out what it is you're looking at, because it's not like anything else that you've seen in your life. And so it's very unique. It's very hard to put into words and explain, but you can't help but feel like, I know what I saw. I just don't know what I'm looking at. Now, when I want to back up for just a second. So when you observed this dark entity structure thing, whatever you saw at a distance, you and your dog are frozen. You're statues. You're just kind of observing what's going on in front of you. Did you feel like it was definitely looking at you? Did you get that sense at all?
Yeah, I did. I actually thought it was trying to like get a look at us through the trees, because like at one point I thought it was going from one tree to another tree trying to get a better look at us. That's what I thought I saw, even though it's pretty far away. But that's the feeling that I was getting, that it was actually trying to scope out what my dog and I were, or maybe what our intentions were.
Okay.
Like maybe it was spooked. Maybe I spooked it.
Right.
Maybe, and it was trying to be, instead of like running really fast, maybe it was trying to, I guess, try to be as slow as possible. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't want to like for us to chase it or something. I don't know.
Right.
It was just, to me, it was just pretty weird behavior for whatever this thing was.
Sure. So
it seemed like there might have been some intelligence to it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. It's not like watching an elk or a deer or a bear. You kind of have an idea of behavior patterns that you expect to witness that make sense, that are logical. You watch these animals and, okay, well, they're looking for water, or they're eating grass, or maybe they're looking for something else to eat, or, they're kind of foraging, or you have these things that make sense. And then you see something else that seems to be observing you, and you really don't know what it is. Or then again, you don't know what it wants. And so that's a whole nother mindset, and that's a whole nother activity going on in your brain about, what am I looking at? And should I be afraid? Should I run? Should I stay still? Because that fight or flight kicks in. But again, just like a recent interview I just had, the sense of freezing, there's this overwhelming sense of don't move. You can't move almost. It's like your brain stalls out. And it's like, you don't know whether you can move. It's like your brain is so numb from what it's looking at that it's hard to even think. Like, in the conversations of, why didn't you take a picture? Because I couldn't move. I couldn't think. My brain stalled. I just had a major brain fart. My brain just kind of went, what am I looking at? There's a lot happening when that occurs. And you're right. You're right to not claim it to be anything, because you really don't know. But you saw something. That's the bottom line. You and your dog had a physical response to something.
Yeah.
So I'm glad your dog was with you, because that kind of makes you feel a little bit more confident, like, okay, well, the dog responded. So I know it's not just me. I'm not hallucinating. There's
Yeah.
something. I'm seeing something. So that's pretty incredible. Can I ask, what's your long-term goal? What are you hoping to get evidence of, see for yourself, collect? What is your goal? What do you want, Tristan, for you?
I personally want a confirmation sighting because I keep getting these glimpses of things where I
Okay.
can't say, where I can't tell people what it is, or even
Okay.
myself. I can't, like what you're just talking about. Like I can't
Yeah.
tell people what it is because I don't know what it was.
Right.
I personally want a confirmation sighting, like, a class A, if you want to call it. I want a class A confirmation sighting of,
Okay.
yes, that Bigfoot is totally out there for sure. Because like I keep getting, just like collecting, if you want to call it evidence or data, you're still collecting pieces of things that you don't even know for sure if it's Bigfoot or not. Like I
Right.
don't know if some of these footprints I'm finding are human or not. So
Right.
even confirmation, even with the data that I'm collecting too, it's like, oh, I have to tell people like I don't know what I'm collecting. I don't know what it is.
Right.
I can't claim any of this to be Bigfoot, anything that
Right.
I'm sharing with people. So I would just like a confirmation sighting that yes, Bigfoot is totally out there for sure. And that's
Right.
what I've been chasing, what other people have been chasing for many years and experiencing too, of course. So,
Right. So do you have stock at a peanut butter company at this point? Are you bringing peanut butter with all of
man,
your travels?
I should come up with my own peanut butter at this point, like own brand. But the
Or
funny
get a
thing is,
sponsor.
like,
The
the funny
peanut
thing
butter
is
that
like
Bigfoot loves.
we've been gifting peanut butter around these areas
Hmm.
since that night, and
Hmm.
we haven't really gotten those kind of results in terms of like domal ridges or something putting its hand inside the peanut butter jar. We haven't gotten
Right.
those results again. I mean,
Right.
we got black bear around, and I know they've been tearing up into our peanut butter jars as well,
Sure.
and that's the difference too.
Right.
They'll tear. You'll know when it's a black bear because they'll tear
Absolutely.
it apart.
They're
Like they
not
don't leave
dainty.
anything behind. So, and that's the difference compared to what we experienced up here.
Absolutely.
So, there
Absolutely.
was something else messing with, with the peanut butter that night.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, like it seems like we're getting more black bear eating our peanut butter jars than possible Sasquatch. We have
Right.
had jars taken, but again, I can't say for sure that's not a bear doing that because they do the same. Like they'll take your jar as well,
Sure.
unless you find the jar, which many cases we do,
Hmm.
torn open. Although other times we don't find it at all. So maybe something else is just taking it. It's hard to say. It really
So
is.
have you thought about writing a book, Tristan, about what you're doing and what you found?
Um. Well, the thing is, it's like I don't. To be honest, like I don't feel like I've experienced enough to write a book. That's why I'm kind of hoping, like, if I get a class A sighting or something like that occurs
Right.
in my life, maybe I'd be more willing to write about that. But right now, I just have so many questions and unknowns, and unsure of. So many unsure ofs. So it'd be kind of difficult for me to write a book based on those experiences.
Right.
Because what am I gonna? I mean, I know I'm sharing this stuff with people, and I'm telling them I'm not claiming it's Bigfoot, but
Right.
I would be doing that again if I'm writing a book. But I would,
Right.
yeah, if I get like a really great class A encounter, or, a really great activity like that, I would definitely would think about writing a book if I could, sure.
Yeah.
But and the other thing is, I don't have a YouTube page dedicated to my Bigfoot investigations. I don't feel like there's a need for myself to do that.
Hmm.
And to be honest with you, and I'm sure other people will agree that Bigfooting is pretty repetitive. It's pretty boring. It's not like what you see on TV.
Right. Right. That's very true.
So, so unless if I were to make a YouTube channel, for example, I would only post videos. I personally would only post videos where maybe something I think is important to share would happen to me.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm personally, from my own perspective, I'm not going to waste people's time
Hmm.
going out there and just making videos for the heck of it. But there's nothing wrong with that. I know people do that regardless, but
Right.
that's not something that I would personally would do.
Gotcha.
I like, I mean, I like sharing stuff on these podcasts. Like
Mhm.
I would like people to hear the things I've collected and see, hear and see what I've collected and make up their own minds.
Right.
I'm not gonna put a name to them. People can come up with any, opinion or answer whatever they want.
Right.
I'm just putting it out there for people to, to hopefully enjoy and, get an interest. Yeah.
So hopefully maybe we can get back together and just do a video and go over your sound clips and talk about what happened and what time of year it was and kind of go over that. Because part of what I've been hearing a lot of is the migration of Bigfoot and Sasquatch and how they seem to have a pattern. And some of the things I've been hearing is that they follow the berries,
Mm-hmm.
and where berries bloom in different times of the years where you can kind of find them. Are you noticing any patterns in your area? Are you finding that there's more activity in one part of the year versus another?
Well, yeah, like the spring, for example.
Mhm.
Yeah, like during the winter, you barely. I mean, for me, I barely get very much activity, if anything at all.
Mhm.
Maybe a little. Maybe you might hear like a wood knock or a howl here and there, but
Mhm.
in the springtime, you definitely hear more activity, such as more vocalizations and definitely more possibility of chatter, like caption chatter.
Right.
Because, like, when you go up to Bumping Lake, for example, in the springtime, um, the berries up there and the fish,
Right.
like all these food sources for them. The elk and
Sure.
deer, they come down to the water from, they come from above down below, and so
Right.
you're following that absolutely. And in
Right.
terms of migration, we have this. I have this theory along with some other friends of mine, other researchers, that it's more like a big circle. It's not so
Mhm.
much like, they're going from here to, here to Mexico or something like that. I
Right.
don't think it's
Right.
that kind of migration, so to speak. Or
Mhm.
I do think they'll travel long distances for whatever reasons, maybe. But
Mhm.
I think there's like a circumference, like a oval, basically, that they kind of go around in basically year
Mhm.
round. I don't know if I don't really think they all travel way too far. I think they just follow the food sources around.
Sure.
They'll
Sure.
follow the elk, they'll follow the deer around these mountains. And that's the other thing too. I think up here in Washington, the more of an elevation animal the Bigfoot are, if that's what
Sure.
we're dealing with. And so you're going to be going up to these elevations. And I think, again, the reason why we've had that activity up here is because they had a travel route on this hill up here that
Mhm.
ran along this creek. Because, like, this
Mhm.
hillside runs pretty far above the neighborhoods and stuff. So in a way, they're kind of secluded up there. Like, they have no problem. They probably don't feel threatened of humans going up there. Very many humans. So maybe
Right.
that's why they were traveling that route as they were
Mhm.
before before the bulldozers came in and they started developing up in there. So I think, yeah,
Nice.
I definitely think if you go up into the more elevated areas, like even
Right.
bumping like 3,000 feet up, mountain areas, that's where you might find a better chance of finding Sasquatch. At least in some parts of the state there. That's
Hmm.
my opinion.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So, of all your research that you're doing, what are you most proud of that you've done so far?
um well, I'm happy that I'm able to capture some very unusual sounds that I can't explain and maybe nobody else can really explain. I mean, they could
Okay.
come up with their own theories, but I'm pretty happy that I've captured some possible language other than the Sierra sounds.
Mhm.
Just the sounds that I've been capturing sound more like a native language,
Mhm.
which are, in my opinion, different than the Sierra sounds. And I'm not saying by saying that, I'm not saying the Sierra sounds aren't real. I'm just saying
Right.
maybe we're dealing with a different type of, I maybe
Different language
species,
maybe or different communication type or
maybe a different. I don't know the right word to say. Like maybe a
Okay.
different tribe or
Okay,
clan,
sure.
Bigfoot, like maybe different species or races. I don't know the right word to say for that, but
Sure.
what I'm saying is, maybe around the country, you might be dealing with different types or different subspecies of Sasquatch. So maybe the reason why the ones in the Sierras have the samurai chatter is because maybe that's a different tribe, if you want to call it. I'm
Right.
trying to be as nice as I can about like how I say it, but
No, I get it. No, I know. I appreciate you being respectful, so I get that. It just makes sense that different areas would have different types.
yeah.
Like
Like
there's
even,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say like even the elevations, like or right. So like if you're up in the higher mountains, you might have a larger, more hulking kind of creatures, as opposed to like if you go to Florida, you might have the more lanky, like skunk apes. So depending on the environment that they're in and how they well, I can't think of the word right now. How they survive in those how they adapt in those environments.
Right. The climate affects the human body. Our
Yes.
bodies have adapted to the climates that we reside in, and so everything else, I'm sure, does. It's evident in wild animals. I mean, we have bunny rabbits around here, and the fur that they have during the spring and summer is nothing like the fur they have in the winter. It's completely different.
For sure.
So I'm sure, it only makes sense that there would be a big difference like that. Have you wanted to do more traveling with your research to see of different types in different areas, or are you mainly focusing on Washington area?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I would love to travel. In fact, I haven't been on an airplane in like 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Or I haven't even gone on road trip. That's the other thing too. I am planning on going to Bluff Creek in July with some people.
And where's that?
It's in California, Bluff Creek, California. It's
Oh, okay.
it's where the Patterson film was taken.
Oh, okay.
We're going to the Patterson. We're basically going to the Patterson film site.
Fun. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I've never been there. It's on my bucket list. I'm pretty sure with a lot of other people, it's on their bucket list.
Right.
So I'll be going there with a group of people, and it should be a great time. I'm not expecting anything, but that's the best thing is like always expect the unexpected when you're going out there.
Absolutely.
Anywhere you go out to. So yeah, I'm
Right.
pretty excited about that. But yeah, no, I basically have been researching around Washington State all these 10 years. I've never really,
Sure.
the closest I've gone, I've gone to the Blue Mountains, which is closer to the Oregon border.
Mm-hmm.
We went close to the Freeman film site over there.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice area. In fact, I might even go back there this year, but really nice area. But that's like, honestly, like closest to Oregon or even getting out of state as I've been in terms of researching. I would love to go to Oregon, for example, and research even, and in other states too, like even Florida or something. I'd love to do that. And even out of the country too. Like I know Australia has a bunch of dangerous animals, but like I would love to look for the yowie over there someday.
Right.
Things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully.
Right. That would be incredible. Definitely. Definitely. So what are you most curious about at this point? I mean, you definitely want to get your A sighting, but beyond that, what are you kind of focusing on right now? Is it the language part? Is it getting more footprints or I mean, other than the perfect sighting where you can say, I know what I saw, it's definitely a Sasquatch, or, what are you really kind of curious about? What are you thinking about with this?
Well, I'm also trying to figure out what these things could possibly be, and
Okay.
are the theories of Gigantopithecus true, or are we dealing with something totally different and that's not even part of the human evolutionary line? Maybe I'm not saying for sure it's a missing link, but maybe we're dealing with something, if it exists. Maybe it's something, its own species. Maybe it's on its own branch or its own tree. Maybe it's not even related. Because a lot of people try to anthropomorphic Sasquatch and try to relate it, relate it to other primates, like great apes, and one interesting thing is like Sasquatch apparently is nocturnal, and pretty much the great apes like gorillas, chimpanzees, they're not nocturnal, they're diurnal.
Right.
And of course, and we too, right? We're not nocturnal, we're diurnal. So why is Sasquatch? Why is it that singled out in terms of being nocturnal? So what's going on with that? So even though I might share like in terms of footprints, like it kind of looks human and maybe there's some human features to it.
Sure.
Why does it have other possible if you want to call it abilities, like why is it able to be nocturnal? So I think there's something going on there, and I'm actually, I'm really curious to kind of figure out like what are we dealing with, and of course the other question is it flesh and blood, or is it paranormal, or is it a combination of both? Like, what are we dealing with here?
Right.
So that's another thing too. Like, I want to confirm, not just by the sighting. Like, I want a confirmation of what it actually is and what are we dealing with. That's really what I'm curious about. I mean, I love getting audio. I try to get audio as much as I can. I want to have a library of audio to share with people and to kind of categorize. Like, I want to get more.
Great.
I want to get more chatter. I want to get more speech.
Right.
Because, a lot of people hear this stuff, but there's not that many recordings of that kind of, I mean, there are other recordings in the Sierra Sounds, but I would love to get some kind of big library going of, speech and vocalizations, and maybe we can try to categorize those.
That'd be incredible.
Just have some kind of library of that. Maybe we can share that with people, because, we have these bird call databases and animal sound databases online.
That's true.
It'd be great if we, even though I can't say for sure these are Bigfoot sounds, it would be great if we have some kind of at least unknown library for people to listen to. Because even though, like, there's people that record, I'm pretty sure there's people that are recording like coyotes and they don't know what they're hearing sometimes. And so,
right.
I don't know.
I've wondered that
great to have some kind of database of unknown sounds, at least, for people.
Right. No, but that would be amazing, simply because even if it's a small database, you're right. I mean, there's tracking of every type of animal there is. And so there's people that know a lot about foxes and coyotes and that level of canine, and can tell you, I know where that is. It's this age, it's from this area. There's a lot of tonality things that they measure. Right. And then just talking about, the different noises, the hum and the language sounds and all, it would be really cool to have a resource. So somebody that's researching that says, I heard something, and then go to this data bank. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do, Tristan. Maybe you're supposed to start a data bank on all this.
I mean, it's possible. Like, before I had that hum recording for like a few years. I didn't release that right away because I didn't even know what I was dealing with.
Right.
I didn't even know if it was possible Bigfoot. Like, to be honest, I never heard anybody talk about the hum before. Right. That was a new thing to me. So when I went on Doug's show, like Doug Hycheck's show and stuff like that, that's when he started getting people sending him stuff, like sending audio recordings. And Chris, you talked to Chris?
Yeah, and there's a bunch. There's a bunch of people that have heard similar things. Yeah. Yeah,
and so they started sending in their recordings of possible hums. And like Chris talked about, he had that go on with the hummingbirds and stuff at his place. So so it's interesting now that I kind of brought that up, the hum thing. Other people have said, yeah, we've had it too. I guess they're kind of in the same boat as me. Like, they didn't know if it was Bigfoot or possibly Bigfoot or not. They're just,
how would you know?
How would you know? Yeah, it seemed like a new thing.
Right.
A new kind of thing, even though people were recording it for years, and they probably thought maybe it was a hummingbird or something.
And just passed over it. Well, yeah. Or it just seemed like white noise, just something else. They chalked it up to a bird or something else.
Right.
Yeah.
So the hum would be a good example to put, especially if we're now collecting it from around the country from people.
Right.
It'd be great to have that in some kind of database. And I'm pretty sure I don't know if you know who David Ellis is, but
I've heard his name. Yeah.
Yeah. He's with the Olympic Project, and he's like the audio collector there. So
yeah. That'd be amazing. I think you should do it. I think you should totally work on that. I think that'd be a great project. At least if you could start out with Washington and get as much from Washington that you can.
Oh yeah.
And then start linking up with other people and just get it together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like, go from state to state, just have collected stuff from state. Yeah, that's a great. And like, I have hard drives full of audio, and it takes up so much space. I'm gonna start it's just really, it's pretty overwhelming, to be honest with you. Like, collecting all this, because like there's a lot of memory that all these audio recordings eat up. So I got to do something with it, because like, I'm trying to preserve it in some way. And,
Back it up.
and I want other people to hear it too. So that's why I like going on these podcasts, and for you to share. Well, I know probably in your next one you'll be sharing, but I mean, for them to be sharing this stuff with people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I just wanted to kind of get to know you a little bit and talk about what you're doing. And I would love to have another episode with you where we actually play the recordings and then talk about what happened and where you got them and what was going on. Because people love that. People really do.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
so,
sure. That'd be great.
So we need to come to a close at our time, but hang on for just a minute. I just want to tell everybody, if they want to try and reach Tristan, you can find him on Facebook. It's TristanYolton for those of you listening on the radio. He's got a lot of stuff he's working on, and he'd be happy to talk to you. Just find him on Facebook and shoot him a question. And for those of you watching and listening, please hit the like button. It helps spread the podcast out for people that are interested in this content. And it doesn't cost anything, you guys. And I know it just takes a second. I know you're busy. Just take a second and hit it. It helps me out in the best sort of way. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium saying thanks again to Tristan Yolton for coming on today, and we'll have him back soon. And I'll be with you next week, guys. Hang in there, and I'll be back soon. This is Holly saying thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, hang on one sec. Thank you for listening to Holly's Pandorium. If you have stories to share, you can find me on hollyspandorium.com, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and our wonderful Metal Cross Radio at radioking.com. Thanks again for listening.